In this video, we're going to do an analysis of construction web steps. So let's look at part 1 and highlight important information. Given the equation, the difference between x and 3 divided by 2, or we could call this the quotient of x minus 3 over 2 equals 4. Without solving for x, determine the value of the following expressions by examining the change that occurred from the left-hand side of the equation above to the left-hand side of the equations below. In addition, state what operation occurred. Okay, so a lot of important information there. I highlighted it all. So let's see what we're going to do here. Okay, so we want to think, in our last problem, we started with an equation x equals 16. Okay, here we have an equation that's a little bit more complex, but we could also perform operations on this. We could add numbers to both sides, subtract numbers to both sides of the equation, etc. So we want to see, by comparing these two, okay, what operation was performed to get from the left-hand side of this equation to the left-hand side of this equation. And then we also want to find the corresponding right-hand side of the equation. Okay. So notice, I'm going to put this one right here. Here we have the x minus 3 over 2, our last expression, or our expression from here, and we added 5 to it. Okay. So the operation that happened from here to here is adding 5. And if we added 5 to the left-hand side of this equation, to make this have the same truth value, we'd need to add 5 to the right-hand side. So this right-hand side is 4 plus 5, which is 9. Okay, let's look at the next one. This one's a little bit trickier. So we'll start with x minus 3 over 2 equals 4. Okay. So how would we get from x minus 3 over 2 to x minus 3? Okay, so what's missing between these two is this expression is not divided by 2. Okay, so if we wanted it to not be divided by 2, we need this 2 to, say, cancel out via multiplication. Okay, so we can think of this as, if I multiplied the original expression by 2, these 2's would cancel, and I'd be left with our result here, x minus 3. Okay? So we could think of this as 2 times x minus 3 over 2. Okay? And then that would mean the right-hand side also has to be multiplied by 2, so 2 times 4. Okay? So this resulting expression is 8. And notice what we did to the original. Okay? Again, these 2's would cancel, and that's how we get x minus 3. What we did to the original left-hand side of the equation was multiply it by 2, so we performed the same operation on the right-hand side, 4, to get 8. Okay, let's look at the next one. X minus 3 over 2 equals 4. Well, looking at this left-hand side, it starts with the equivalent expression, but we subtract 6.2. Forgot to write here, sorry. Multiply by 2 is the operation we performed on both sides here. Here, we're subtracting 6.2. Well, that means to find the result, we also need to subtract 6.2 from 4. So 4 minus 6.2 equals negative 2.2. Okay, so this result would be negative 2.2. Okay, again, do this by hand. If you're having trouble with this, check it on your calculator. Okay, so make sure that you're constantly reviewing these basic skills. And now looking at the last one. Here's our x minus 3 over 2 equals 4. Okay. So here we have the x minus 3 over 2 from the original, but this left-hand side took that expression and multiplied by 3. So let's write that. we multiply by 3. Okay. Well, if we're going to multiply the left-hand side by 3, we have to multiply the right-hand side by 3. So 4 times 3, and the right-hand side is 12. Okay. Now we're going to look at one last example of analysis of construction web steps by doing an error analysis. So this is part 2. Okay. And the idea here is to look at student work or some work that has some errors in it that are common and to be able to identify them. And this being able to identify an error will help you not make your own errors in the future. Okay. So this is like a construction web, but instead we're stating steps, step 1, 2, 3, 4. And to the left we state what the step is. So in the first step we subtracted 2, then we divided by 4, added 3, multiplied by 5. And here we started with the original equation, x equals 6. So we want to check all of these steps for errors. And as a teacher, I can tell you that sometimes it's really hard to find errors in student work. So what I like to do, if there's an error, is to write the corresponding correct work next to it, okay, and then compare them. So we'll start with x equals 6. Now we're supposed to subtract 2 from both sides of the equation. So x minus 2 equals 6 minus 2. And notice the left-hand side is correct here, and 6 minus 2 is in fact 4. I'll simplify that here. Okay. So far so good. Step 1 is a check, meaning correct. Now the next step, we're supposed to divide by 4. So x minus 2 divided by 4 equals 4 over 4. Okay. Notice 4 divided by 4 equals 1, so I'm going to simplify that and write 1. And notice the student performed this step correctly. X minus 2 all divided by 4 equals 1. So we'll put a check here. Next we need to add 3. So I'm going to take my left-hand side of the equation, copy the whole thing, and then add 3. And then on the right-hand side, I'll take 1 and add 3. Okay. 1 plus 3 is 4. Okay. Now notice here something funny happened. So we have a 4 on the right-hand side, that's correct. There's a 4 in the denominator. Okay. But instead of x minus 2 plus 3, the student has x plus 1 in the numerator. Okay. So notice it looks like the student added 3, but just to the numerator of the expression. Okay. So they said x minus 2, let's write it up here, x minus 2 plus 3 over 4, and that would be x plus 1 over 4. Okay. Now this is incorrect. Okay. If we look at this expression and this expression, okay, let's just look at it for 0. If I put in 0 here, this would be 1/4. If I put in 0 here, this would be negative 1/2 plus 3. So these expressions are not equivalent. Okay? And this is the correct one because remember, when we're building these construction webs, we're using the previous result. Okay? This x minus 2 wasn't the previous result. We didn't want to add 3 to x minus 2. We wanted to add 3 to x minus 2 over 4, and they are different results. Okay, so this is where things went bad. Okay, and the last step, multiply by 5. It looks like they did this correctly, but we're going to put the correct result based on the correct previous result. Okay, so let's go back to the blue pen. 5 times, in parentheses, this entire expression, x minus 2 over 4 plus 3 equals, and now we want 4 times 5, which is 20. Okay. So again, notice with addition and subtraction, make sure you add or subtract outside the entire expression you last worked with. Okay. And notice with multiplication and division. So here when we did division, we didn't need parentheses, but you need to make your division fraction symbol go across the entire previous expression, and that implies that we're dividing this entire expression by 4. And if we're going to multiply, your best bet is to use parentheses. So I took this entire previous expression, put it in parentheses, and multiplied by 5. Okay, so this is our final result. Okay, the error was here. This step officially is okay relative to the last step, but it's not the correct answer because it's working on an incorrect result. Okay, and we could distribute this through, but we don't need to. We're just going to leave it in this form since we weren't asked to simplify.